Okay, then maybe. Hi, guys. Listen, I don't know. I was gonna type in. Maybe I should just type in your hi, buddy. Don't know. Hi, buddy. Don't know. Listen, let me just tell you guys. I didn't keep track of ISCOM, and I see I'm going off at 4 o'clock, but I'm running on my laptop. So hopefully maybe my Wi-Fi will last, but hopefully it will last because we're supposed to be having a lovely discussion today about your multi-generational staff rooms. The young people and the old people like me sitting there, the seniors. So I was hoping that you guys will be able to, give me some feedback on how you guys are coping in your multi-generational staff rooms, because I believe the young people, it's more the young people that's, when I meet them, then they telling me about the fact that they're not being given enough opportunities at the school and people are not taking them seriously. So I want to know, is that the sort of a general kind of attitude at the schools, you know, where the young people must fight for their place because the more experienced teachers are perhaps not giving them the scope. So talk to me about that. Um, what is especially interesting about having a multi-generational staff where you have young teachers in their 20s, maybe 30s, and then you have the more senior teachers, 40 and up. And so how are you guys actually coping in those staff rooms? What are you actually doing to make it work? How are the more senior, more experienced teachers helping the young people um, to acclimatize to the culture of the school and, to build that school identity? And how are the younger teachers making an effort to adopt, preferably a very healthy culture and trying to make things work at the school? Okay. Then, of course, apologies. Remember, my generation, and I think the people in the 50s, early 50s, late 50s, are now going to be retiring in a few years' time. So our young people are going to occupy those senior management positions at the school. And I think, my personal thing is, yes, that is right. That the young people should, in fact, be given opportunities to serve as a senior management member if they qualify, if they are competent, passionate, engaged, willing to learn, and willing to take the school further and, just build on what is currently happening at the school. If there are good things, and if there are not such good things, then perhaps try to transform what is happening at the school in collaboration with the other staff members, not to work on their own. Okay. So I wanted to I thought, let me just throw that here because I'm meeting a young group of, aspiring leaders. And this question came up. And then, of course, I'm meeting them again next week. So I thought, let me ask you guys, or there at the coalface, right in the trenches. How's it going at your school? How are you guys coping with the different ideas that the different, let's call us generations, right? That diversity that you have in the staff room, in terms of experience and in terms of age. So, are you experiencing ageism at the school? And when we talk about ageism, where you discriminate people, based on the age, then we are talking about the senior, the older person, the more experienced educator, and we're talking about the young person who's younger in age, but perhaps not as experienced, less experienced than the more senior teachers at the school. So talk to me. Anybody gonna talk to me today? Because I can see this is gonna bomb out of me, this discussion, if you don't chat with me. Okay. What's your experience? Just to get the chat going. I remember when I was when I started as a young teacher, like decades ago, it was already quite an adjustment because I came into an established staff. I was one of six teachers who started, and we were all young teachers. And at the time, I remember the fashion minis were in fashion, right? And I of course also wore shorter dresses and that kind of thing, and and some people frowned upon that, and I remember having to fight for certain things on in terms of my allocation, teaching allocation, and yeah, until after quite a while we could, I think we sort of struck a balance, but there was always that tension. So I know when I became the senior in the room, the older person in the room, I sort of remembered my own experiences and how difficult it was. Okay, and of course I have very clear ideas about how as a more senior, like the senior teacher, I can tell you now already that I have very clear ideas about how things must be done. So that is probably what the young people are, you know, not comfortable with, or young people come with their new ideas and their with all their passion, and they're not getting the scope. They're not getting we're not really giving them the platform to really just live out what they want to do. So that is what I want to talk about. Um, what nowadays the SMTs, the senior management teams, are getting younger, I would say. So more young people are beginning to occupy the senior positions. Our principals, the newer principals are also younger. So you have teachers teaching there for 20, 30, 40 years. And then you may have a young principal of say 30, between 30 and 40. And so my question is, how are the staffs coping? Who's trying to make things work at the school? Who's trying to break down? That kind of thing. Okay. So now you can hop on. Naomi, you can also tell me, what do you think? Because it's not only in teaching where you have this multi-generational workforces, right? You have it in the corporate world. And if you listen to guys my age, then you hear a lot of people complaining, right? Because they feel that the young people are too opinionated. The young people, they even say things like they are lazy. What are the other things? Yeah, and and so the older folk feel perhaps that they're not being respected enough by the young people, and then the young people on the other hand again feel that they are not being respected. So it's sort of a mutual kind of thing, where they're not getting the respect that they deserve because they being told that they are young. What do they know? And so yeah, so it's difficult across all businesses, all organizations, and people are struggling with that because um, organizations are struggling with that because how do you work with this diverse workforce that you have, and how do you ensure that things are still comfortable? Okay, Ran. Now, okay, let me before I pull you on, let me just get rid of this thing that I have here, and then you say you are at the risk of losing your job. Yeah, the boomers. Yeah, that's me. That's me now. Me and Naomi. Pretty much still run the show. They are very reluctant to try new ways of doing things. Agreed, agreed. You don't have to apologize for that. And I understand that things have been done a certain way for decades. So they are reluctant to change their ways now. Why am I losing you now? I wanted to. Okay. Ronald, you stating fact, right? My generation is very averse to change, right? Because things are happening very fast. Technology is dominating, and so my generation is risk averse. Most people don't want to do new things. They're afraid of doing new things, and the other thing is people are set in their ways. But if you're in education now, you see, now this is the difference for me. If you're in education, then I think I'm just putting your comment on the thing again. I to all those who gave us a nice thumbs up there. I think if you're in education, you actually don't have the luxury to be stayed, to get to be in your fixed mindset. Education demands that you be current, that you be relevant, and so that is the difficulty in education. That is the challenge in education. So this may come across harsh, but personally, I believe that the older teachers, if I say older, I'm talking about older in years, must get with the program. They need to try new things. They need to be open to ideas. Then see if it works, right? And so it's not only technology, but also like pedagogy, teaching differently, understanding how the youth think nowadays, how they, what they are interested in. So we don't move in those young circles, and I think it's necessary for us to listen to the young people and then learn from them, but it must be done in a very respectful way by the young people. Okay. And my take on young people is, that you need to be respectful. Um, both parties, there must be mutual respect. So the young people must also be respectful and not also look down on the more sort of experienced teachers, because that will make your experienced colleagues feel intimidated, feel insulted. Because, granted, our culture here in South Africa, we do respect our elders. So there's an expectation, a cultural expectation. And so you can't wish that away, right? It is part of our culture that we need to be respectful towards elders. And that is why it's so important to understand your culture, right? Um, so most of us are South African teachers, so we can't say that we don't know. That is a distinctive feature, in fact, in Africa, that we respect our elders, right? But that doesn't mean that the elders must take advantage of their seniority in terms of age, especially in a teaching environment, I think. You know? Yeah. Let me see if there's anybody else. And then Keith, if you do come on or if you watch a replay, we did say happy birthday to you. I like it, Ronald. I like your comment. Jy moet ek met haar fire. Nee, jy gaan nie gaan fire word nie. You're the type of person that we need at the school. We need to have people talking about these things. Okay. So you guys must give me some feedback. Because I can talk a lot and I can say a lot, but I mean you currently living in that situation. You're working in that situation. And so I wanted to know, like, how are staffs dealing with it? Okay. And since you guys are not really, Naomi says I'm on the edge of my seat. Why, Naomi? Yes, Naomi's one of those hip seniors. Yeah. Yeah, it would be nice for you to say, and you don't have to be scared that somebody's going to hear, see what you're saying, because I think it's important that we discuss this. Personally, I love working with young people, but I'm also very much into the cultural thing of that you need to show a level of respect to your elders. Okay. So as progressive as I am, as modern as I try to be, I'm also quite a stickler for respect, and not, I don't entertain young people who are rude and who want to talk down to somebody. That is a no-no for me as well. Okay. But I do try to allow the young person's voice to be heard, so long as they saying things respectfully and they're willing to pursue that argument or that point of view. So it's not a matter of you just making a statement and then you must be able to articulate what you want. You must be able to, if we ask for more detail, for more clarity, you must give it to us. And then you must be able to unpack whatever you are speaking about clearly, so that we can then say, okay, now let's experiment with that. Let's give that an opportunity to, let's use that opportunity to experiment with what you are saying, once we've discussed it. So I think, in that way you strike a balance. Because my experience with some young people, then you speak to them and you say, okay, take me through the paces, right? Talk me through your thought processes. Let me understand what you're saying so that we can see whether how we can find a middle way, sort of like strike a balance here. And then often the young people can't express themselves properly again, right? And then they can't articulate what they want to say. Then they'll say, you know what I mean, um, this, that, and the other, right? So young people, and even the older person, must be able to communicate their ideas, right? You can't just be grumpy because you can't get your way, right? Either age group, right? You must be able to articulate your ideas, and there must be mutual respect, and there must be part of your culture must be all voices are equal, so everybody can say things, and in that way, I think it helps. You know, yeah. Then the truth will win the days is the obia. Okay, so listen now, you're gonna let me dry up here now, because I thought we're gonna like have a fiery conversation. People are gonna say things here, and I thought I'll put it out there. I'll put it out on the table. I am not such always a fun-loving person. I actually have very clear black and white ideas about certain things, right? And so people who have worked with me have described me as demanding, as sometimes difficult, and so I'm not going to shy away from that, right? Um, and yeah, quite, finicky about certain things, especially when it has, when I've spoken before about the rules of the game. Like once you understand what the rules of the game are, like you know what you can and what you can't do, right? But I'm very open to new ideas, open to trying different things, but then there must just be clarity around that. It can't just be a spontaneous thing, and you don't know, the one who put it on the table doesn't know what is going to happen, or not what is going to happen, but can't explain to us what the steps are, what the goal is, why we must try it that way. I would, in fact, ask a lot of those questions, and it can sound intimidating because I would want clarity about those things. But then I'm very open to ideas, and so let's go for it, let's try it. And so I think with staffs, that should be, maybe, I don't know, but just based on what I understand from the young people, the young SMTs, um, the younger members, it's that they are always undermined, right? That the person in senior in age is always making certain demands on the younger um, school managers, and that is unfair. That's unfair because you're only a senior in age, but that person has been appointed as your senior. So that person, the senior management team member, your department head, or your departmental head, your deputy principal, or even your principal, has been appointed on the basis of having the skill set and having the expertise and having experience in certain fields. So obviously, in certain areas, our more senior teachers in, I'm going to say this all the time, but I don't mean it in the ageist way, that's older, also have experience, so we can learn a lot from them. But they can't say, you can't teach me anything because I'm, you're far younger than me, you my children's age, and I'm not listening to you. No, that doesn't cut. You're gonna have to listen to your seniors, and you're gonna have to learn to have a polite discussion, polite debates, polite conversations with your senior. And if your senior has to carry out certain duties, then you're going to have to comply. You can't use your age as a defense. That's wrong. Now, I've had while I'm waiting for you guys to chat with me. Oh, yeah, Walter. Hi, Walter. Hello. Listen, Walter, you can also speak. I've had a lot of young people being my seniors. In fact, when I left the district, our director was younger than me. My immediate boss lady, as I called her, my senior, was younger than me. Um, but that didn't. Okay, and I'm talking, yeah, maybe under 10 years. But the point is, they were younger than I was. But they didn't intimidate me. They didn't make me feel less competent. In fact, I think I put them sometimes under pressure because I would give myself this credit. I am always learning, right? So I believe in lifelong learning, and so I'm always trying to be abreast of developments and finding out things and so on. And that's the other thing we must talk about. But let me first see what Walter has to say here. Oh, I don't know. I'm an older millennial, yes, nice, and I had to sweat bullets and struggle for many years in order to get a permanent job. Oh my word, Ronald. A few years ago, we welcomed a lady in the 20s. We liked her near the end of her contract. I was asked to approach her in order to find out how she was how she felt about extending her stay. And then Ronald, she said, I'll think about it. I was floored. I remember thinking that the ones younger than me have it so easy because we had to struggle to get jobs. Yes, that's the other point Ronald we have to talk about. The young people, look, Walter, where are you? The young people don't look. The younger generation, especially in education, they don't see themselves staying around for 20, 30, 40 years. No, they are looking at other career options in education, but they're not prepared to hang around like we did. Right? They are looking ahead, and we need to be aware of that. Right? So and I hear you, Ronald. I hear you. But that is what our senior management team members must understand, that the young people are prepared to invest in the school 5, 10 years, maybe perhaps less, and then they want to move on. So you, as the managers, you need to understand that you're going to have this, turnover of staff, and you are going to need something more than just depending on your staff members to do certain things. When they leave, everything else falls flat because they leave with whatever institutional knowledge or institutional practices that they were involved in. They leave with that. Right? That's why it's so important for you to have a solid culture to school. Right? And that is why you need to have policies in place. So if Sharon leaves tomorrow, the world doesn't collapse because Sharon left. Sharon is young. Sharon doesn't like the attitude at the school. She doesn't like the chaos at the school. She doesn't like the pressures at the school. And so Sharon packs up. Now, you can't hold me responsible and say, yeah, that's what the young people do. The young people want to be treated with respect. They have more opportunities. They're not going to give you their loyalty unconditionally. And I think that's right. I think that's where we were chicken, right? That we always used to, like, you at the job, must look after your job, you must stick around, you must take all the shit at the job, even if it's uncomfortable. You just have to hang in there and then one day leave when you have your pension. Now, that is the older generation's attitude, right? That undying loyalty, almost to the point of running yourself into the ground, sacrificing your health because, oh no, I can't leave this and that, and just stick around. And by the time you leave, you got high blood pressure, you got ulcers, you got diabetes, your health is taken a knock because you allowed yourself perhaps to survive in perhaps a very unhealthy environment. Now, what the young people are doing, the young people are saying, no, my health comes first, my well being comes first. I see other opportunities. I'm prepared to go out and experiment, and I'll knock my head 10 times, but I'm not going to stick around and be abused here or be exploited or be undermined. So that's very real, okay? And so a lot of schools lose their young people because look, young people move around. And so, on the one hand, you have to make sure that, if you're investing in the person, you must remember you are making that investment for your school at that point in time. But that young person may move on, may move to another school. And so you have helped that person to be a better teacher, to be a better leader. And so the next school is going to benefit from that. Right? And back to my point that I made somewhere along the line. That is why, guys, our cultures need to be solid at the school, needs to be healthy. It needs to be something, where people live, they live out their dreams while they're contributing to the school. You have solid institutional practices at the school that are not dependent on individuals. It's not sitting with individuals. So when people leave, you still have your framework, you still have your fundamentals in place. Okay? Yep. Naomi, let me see what you're saying here. One wonders what has to be done in order to attract and keep our young teachers. Yes, that's the big thing, Naomi, because they are, like I said, they are not the same as our generation where we would stay for decades, right? They want to experience more, they want to see more. And if they're not being treated, well, then they also want to move off. Okay. And then let me just see. I think Walter, I saw you somewhere, but yeah, look at now. Where are you? Okay, somewhere along the line. Oh no, Omi, you guys did quite a bit. Sorry, I'm gonna pull up some of your comments. Walter, I saw you earlier. Yes, but I can't seem to find your comment, Walter. So, and I'm sure you made quite a long comment. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. Yeah, I've got you. And I've got you right on screen. Walter. Makyo. Yeah. So, a new teacher entering the salon for the first time, make sure you don't go and sit on the vacant chair. That may be the chair of a senior grumpy teacher who may just bite your ear. So, voila, va. You know? Yeah, the teachers, they have their set ways and uh, places in the staff room and places when they sit in the meetings and all that. And yeah, there are certain things we can't change, but I'm talking about, relationships and building, that the young people actually focus on that and not become too obsessed with certain habits that they have. The older teacher parks in that parking spot. Just respect it because that is not going to take anything away from you. But I'm talking about working as colleagues, right? The generations must learn to work together. They must share their skills. They must share their knowledge. And so there's a lot of, with our older teachers, older in age, they have institutional knowledge, so they can help the young people, acclimatize quickly, settle in quickly. They may know how to work with parents. They may understand the community that you're working in better, so they can give you life, tips on how to handle certain things. They also know the history of the school, so they are the brand ambassadors of the school. Hopefully, they are the brand ambassadors of the school. Where they can tell you about the history of the school, and that information may seem like really useless information, but that is so important because then you get a sense of the identity of the school, right? You know the history of the school, so you can become part of that history of the school because the school didn't start the day you walked in. And so that rich institutional knowledge that the teachers have, especially those who are experienced, that is what I think our young people should tap into, you know, and not treat the school as just as a clean slate coming in. And then of course the more experienced teachers, they should also be willing to share that information, but not in a way where they're reprimanding the young people, but just explaining and sharing the different cultural artifacts that you have, the cultural traditions that you have, something about your community and so on, because you want to equip those young people to have the whole picture. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Anybody else? Listen, Anna, I didn't want to talk the whole time because I was hoping that people will give me some input. Okay, because I can ramble on and on and on. But I thought maybe you guys will be open like Ronald. I love Ronald's points. Um, yeah, Naomi, let me see you. You're making a nice point here. There's been a mind shift in the mindset of the young people. Yeah, they're more straightforward. Yes, they're definitely more direct than we're comfortable with. Yes, they speak their mind. I agree with you. Um, we get that from our children, yeah, and in the work environment, and one needs to be particularly careful to listen. I like that. Yeah, we must listen, but we definitely have to listen, and we need to be respectful. And the main thing I think is that both parties must know that there must be mutual respect. I take offense if young people speak to me in a particular way. And that is my cultural birthright, I would say. Because our African culture is that you do respect the older person. That is just a given. And so I buy into that cultural practice. I buy into that cultural mindset. And so I don't take kindly when people are disrespectful. Um, but then again, I mustn't be disrespectful either. Right? So I also need to know how to speak to the younger person, and not take advantage of the fact that my culture sort of gives me that added status, as a senior. Yeah, and how I should conduct myself. So yes, I think it's experience doesn't always your teaching experience doesn't always equate to having all the skills or being skilled, right? So we can't be upset when younger people take on senior positions at the school because we had the opportunity to raise our hands and apply for those jobs, right? Um, so it doesn't matter if you were teaching 20, 30, 40 years. It doesn't mean because you were teaching so long that you have the basket of skills to be a leader or a manager leader, right? So that is something that we have to acknowledge. The older teacher needs to acknowledge, I chose to remain at this level. I chose to remain a post level one teacher because I'm happiest in my classroom and I will lead in the spaces where I am, but I'm not going to apply for a senior position. Right? So that's a choice you made. And so you need to then stick to your choice, but then not look down on the younger person, okay? The younger manager, because we're just making them more anxious. We make them feel insecure. They already know that we're their parents' age, and they're already struggling with their own sense of insecurities because they know they speak differently, they think differently. Okay. And so we need to look at those aspects. The young person needs to find a way of connecting with the older, experienced teachers in terms of how they think. So it's all about perspective. What perspective do they have? How would they think about this? And so find a way where you can make that connection. The same with the older, more experienced teacher working with the younger teachers. Like, okay, what is their world like, right? How do they think, and how would they like to be treated, and then try to find a connecting point. So both parties actually have to work at it, right? If you need to strike that kind of balance. So we mustn't judge people. Okay. Yeah, there I'm now having a whole long conversation all on my own. Okay. And I think it's the other point I wanted to make. I'm just scrolling down here to see if there's anybody else who said something. The other point is that SMTs should be aware of that possible tension, right? So you can't be blind to it. And the SMT must be proactive in seeing how can they break down certain ageist thinking at the school. Ageist thinking the older, more experienced teachers being critical towards the young, and the young, inexperienced teachers being more critical towards the older, more experienced teacher. How can you make life more comfortable for both so that you can build? You can't change it overnight, but you can help people learn to respect each other, right? Because you now have this diverse staff room and you're going to have to make it work. Okay. Yeah, that is one of the things. So we can't stunt the young person's progress at the school, right? If they, especially if they're in the senior management position or they are acting in a senior management role, we need to learn as the more experienced teacher that that person has been placed there to oversee our work, right? So you must bring in your life skills. You must bring in what you have learned over the years in terms of how to deal with people, how to deal with conflict, how to embrace differences. And so, as the older teacher, the more experienced teacher, you must become more like a mentor, right? You must become more like a mentor because you want to help the young people succeed. And the younger educator, the less experienced educator, should also become a mentor and help the more experienced teachers learn about something that they are not familiar with. They don't have the same worldview. They don't have the same, they're not as tech savvy as you are, right? And so we can have what, like this reverse mentoring process happening where the experienced teachers mentor the younger ones in certain institutional practices or even curriculum practices or teaching practices, and how to understand the community and all that stuff. And then the younger teacher, the younger senior member also has to do mentoring, what they call reverse mentoring. And so the younger person will again help the older, more experienced teacher to learn how to do things technologically, right? And how to understand the world of social media if that is a need at the school, right? And so each one is taking the other by the hand and helping each other. And I think then it can work, right? Um, yeah. No, okay, Naomi speaking to Ronaldo. Sorry, Naomi, I just pulled you up here. Yeah. So, am I missing out on some points here? No. Okay. I hope you guys are not scared to talk about this topic, eh? That's the other thing. We must be bold enough to raise these issues in our staff room and as senior management members, especially with the principal, and we can see these tensions arise in the staff room, and then we need to address it, right? And we need to also look at opportunities to ensure that there's not that divide between the younger and the older teachers, and then proactively try to break down those barriers that exist between the two age groups or the two generations. Okay, so yeah, there's quite a few struggles, and I just sort of browse the internet to see what are people experiencing in other in the corporate world, and it's the same thing. Where the senior experienced workforce is also experiencing problems with the younger folk. So I think that dilemma is going to be around all the time, and really it's not a matter of one size fits all. You're going to have to work on it at your school. But this I can say, and I don't know where this fits in, but you know, education is a vibrant, a dynamic space. It changes all the time. So I think if there's anybody who needs to keep up with the changes in this modern world, it would be teachers, right? As long as you are offering your services at school, as long as you feel capable, and motivated and inspired to continue teaching our young people and preparing our young people for the new world out there, you have an obligation to remain current. So you can't say things like, I'm not on social media. I'm not interested. I'm not going to learn the computer. I'm still writing out my stuff. You can't do that. You have to move with the times. And that, as somebody from the boomer generation, I don't have patience with people my age who's like sitting there and just frotting away, just wanting to do their own stuff. No, you're going to have to upskill yourself all the time. You're going to have to upskill yourself. Yes, you don't have the same energy level. Yes, you don't always understand what is happening. Yes, they can cut you some slack if there's some activity happening and it's definitely not up your alley. You can go for an hour and you can go home after your hour. But you need to be actively involved because that is why you're still at the school. That is why you still feel you can add value, and you can add value. You are adding value, right? However, you need to look at how things are changing at the school. You can't say, we never did that 10 years ago. Yes, we agree. You didn't do it 10 years ago because it wasn't necessary to do it 10 years ago. But now we need this to be done like this. Okay? There are certain things that don't change. Discipline is, it doesn't change. The children may change in their behavior. The children may have a different upbringing now, making it very difficult for the teachers at the school. But you cannot shift the goalpost where discipline is concerned. You see? So there are certain things that will be, it is just intergenerational. You just have to do it. You just have to enforce discipline at the school. Can't say we can't hit the children and we can't do this. Yes, I know, I was there. I used the cane in my early years and it helped me a lot. Right? And yes, you don't have the external cane to punish the kids anymore. And so now you have to rely on other ways of disciplining the kids. And yes, it's difficult. But as time moves on, your voice becomes your discipline signal. Your face becomes your discipline, um, part of your discipline kit. Your consistency becomes part of your discipline kit, right? The way you model behavior and what you expect, and if you're consistent and you enforce that, guys, then you need to see some kind of harmony at the school, because that's what's happening at a lot of our schools. They know. So teachers are not using the cane. Teachers are not shouting at the kids. Well, sometimes they probably shout, but I mean, it's just generally calm. And so how can that school do it? Because they have this infrastructure that this school is a disciplined school and this is non-negotiable. You see? So it's working on the culture, whether you're young, whether you're older, whether you experience, more experience, less experience. There are certain things that do not change. And that is what we need to hang on to. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting carried away here now again. Let me just see again, just to make absolutely sure I'm not missing out on anybody. Thanks. Naomi and Ronaldo, see the chat is quite busy. Then I see Ursula Koopman is here. Let me see what Ursula says. Hi, Ursula. Thanks for joining us. All good and well, but sometimes the younger teachers don't want to accept help. Yes, Ursula, I agree with that. Now, that is a young person's problem. That they can't be that arrogant that they don't want to learn from the young people. And that is when you, as a senior teacher, experienced teacher, need to dig in your heels, right? Where, especially when you know that what advice was given is good advice, it's going to advance the teaching, it's going to help them control the learners better, it's going to help them communicate better with the parents, it's going to help them lift the entire game. Then in that case, well, this is now boomer generation talking here, right? In that case, they must do. They must do. Because if a young person is having problems in the class, and can't control the children, we can't have somebody from outside coming in all the time to come say, listen, this Sharon is coming, Miss Lewin is coming in now you must keep quiet. No. You're going to have to work on your assertiveness skills. You're going to have to work on how do you become the disciplinarian without becoming rude, without becoming an ogre. And so if there's an older teacher, a more experienced teacher that want to help you along and say, try this, try that. This worked for me for the past 10 years, for the past 20 years. Did you see when my kids come in here? I'm not even shouting. I'm talking softly and they're paying attention. If this is working, then I would strongly encourage you to use this method as well. Try it out for a week consistently, and then we'll chat about it again. Right? So, yes, I agree with you. So, sometimes sometimes the senior teachers also have to put their foot down because you are guiding and you're helping the younger teachers to grow. And there are times when the younger teacher will have to put their foot down because they are helping us to grow, right? Especially with regard to compliance issues. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Thanks, Ursula, for that comment. True. And that is why why we keep on saying that the SMTs can't have an identity crisis, man. Um, yeah, Naomi, I see your point about consistency. There isn't. It's tough to be an SMT member, ne? But we chose to do that. We chose that promotion post, right? We chose to apply. We saw the job description. We chose to lead, and we said we will lead, even if it's going to be a painful exercise, because we are going to have growing pains. But at the end of the day, we are doing this because we feel that if we are in that senior leadership role, ranked, then you have the authority to help to steer the school. And so you cannot say, yeah, but this and that and the other. You can't. It's like a parent. We can't cop out. Right? We can't cop out and say, I'm now giving you up because especially when they are children. I'm not going to love you anymore. No, we can't. That is our God-given role. And so as an SMT member, I have no sympathy for SMT members who don't want to take on their responsibilities as manager leaders. I'm not saying it's easy. And there will be many a day when you also want to give up. But you cannot decide, look, I've spoken enough, I've done enough. No. You've actually been appointed, legally appointed in that position. So you can never cop out. The day you cop out is the day you must resign. Or you must go to another school. Right? But you cannot shirk your responsibility if you're a leader. Never mind how tough it is. Okay? Because you chose. Like I said, it was a choice. It was a choice thing. Apologies. So yeah, I think that given my ranting again, I will say it is, in summary, my point that I want to make. I hope I didn't miss out on anybody who wanted to say something extra, but I want to say the following. Yes, we have intergenerational staffs. Yes, we have multi-generational staffs. From the ground, from what I'm hearing on the ground, that there are tensions at school, especially when our younger colleagues get a senior position, and then there's that resistance from the more experienced teachers, and they can't always cope with that resistance. And then I'm also hearing from the more experienced teachers saying that the young people are arrogant, they have attitude, and they now think they can dictate because they have that senior position. And so both are wrong, right? So somewhere you must try to strike a happy medium. And it's all about respect. It's all about communication. So we need to we really need to look at how we communicate, what our intentions are, and how we want to help each other grow. So the more experienced teachers must learn how to use technology. The more experienced teachers must learn how to understand the new society, or the new milieu that our young people are growing in. Right? We must make a special effort to understand it, because they are coming into our classrooms, and there's going to be conflict if we come with our old world view, old way of doing things, and they're living in a very dynamic world, right? So the more experienced teachers have to learn to understand this world, especially if we are actively still teaching, so that we can become meaningful and the children can understand us better, right? And then, of course, the young people, um, the way I see the young people lacking would be in terms of the experience that they have, life experience, right? Life experience at the coalface, life experience in terms of dealing with difficult parents, life experience in terms of dealing with ups and downs in at the school, where things go up and down all the time. And that's where your more experienced teacher can help you and say, we will come out of this doldrum that we currently in. We will surface. This is what we have to do. So the young people must understand that life didn't start when they walked into the school, right? And the young people must understand that they also have a mentoring role. And this is quite a sort of unusual way of seeing it. But the younger person does have a mentoring role, because you have technology, the advantage of technology. You have the advantage of being part of or very close to the generation that you're currently teaching. And so you have an obligation to help us understand the thinking out there, right? And so that we can also then up our game, improve our game. Yeah. So happy working in your multi-generational schools, and then we'll see each other next time. I see my Wi-Fi has not let me down at all. Guys, thank you for coming along. And yeah, I'd love you actually to be chatting with me, more actively in the chat, so that I can see where your thinking is. And I thought that this topic may generate a lot of discussion, but I'm also aware that it's a very sensitive topic. Okay, so have fun, continue building your schools, continue having fun, and then I'll see you again next week. And if you have topics that you'd like me to explore, then drop it there on School Corridor, and I'll have a look, and then we can choose one of the topics that are relevant to you. Okay, have fun. Lekker evening while I prepare to be powerless until 8 o'clock tonight. That's my ISCOM now. Pleasure, Ursula. Ursula says thank you and thanks for the good advice. And thanks for your input too, Ursula. Loved that. Loved having you around too. And then Walter, yes. Walter, thanks. Walter's one of our veteran senior managers from the district office, from head office. Thanks, Walter, for always participating. Really a lifelong learner. And then Naomi, to you also. I'm just thanking. So if you guys want to tune out, you can. Naomi, yeah, I love that, Naomi. Consistency, preparation, exemplary leadership by the SMT in particular. Yeah. Oh gosh, we have to work on that, eh? It's not easy, but that is the only thing that's gonna help. Okay, I did say goodbye. I'm just making sure that I'm giving everybody the that I am acknowledging everybody. And then, of course, Ronald, thanks so much for always being willing to give us input and participate in the discussion. And now, finally, see you from School Corridor.